Okay, so we were talking about what to do after you have decided what it is that you want. Does anybody here remember Gene London? Okay, and do you remember that song he used to sing? I think I'll have it right. It was something like this. It's like, let's pretend that it's story time and I'll tell a tale to you. I'll tell you a story of make-believe and all your dreams will come true. And when the story's over and when we're at the end, we'll live happily ever after in the land of let's pretend. Philadelphia kids show, talk show, or children's show. But that's what we have to do. So, you know, when I was doing that for that house and living in that apartment, when I drew the line in the sand that day, from that minute on, I began to talk, to think, to tell myself I was in this space, I'm in this house. I was no longer mentally, emotionally in that apartment. Even though it was 2 weeks before Patty called and we went and saw the house and 6 weeks before we moved into it, for those 6 weeks I was already in the having it. I was already, as a Pentecostal, we used to sing a song that went, it's mine, I have it now. And it went on and on like that. It's mine, I have it now. And so there's this place of living in the having it now. And that's what we have to do. Because as long as it's future tense, you're still telling the universe that it's future tense. As long as you're like, I'm going to have this. I'm going to have this wonderful thing. I'm going to have this thing. I can see this thing. I can feel this thing. I can taste this thing. I hunger and thirst after this thing, but it's still left. Right? As long as you're in that space of want, I want this, I want this, I want this. You're not having this. You're wanting it. It's out there. It's in the future. It's the carrot just past your reach. You have to be in the I have it now. And that's so hard sometimes because it's like swimming upstream in a downstream world. We are trained to talk negative. We're trained to talk about, at least about what we have. We're trained to be realistic and honest, right? And so, you know, we're trained to say, I've got this little apartment, but I believe I received this really nice house, and I want it, but I have this little apartment. We're trained for that. We're trained for calling somebody up and say, oh my God, do you know what this person did or said? Or, you know, we're trained to whine and bitch and complain and telling and, you know, and share. How was your day? Oh, I don't know, you know. I was really not feeling so good, you know. We're trained for that kind of conversation. And how do you do this thing? And nobody understands what you're doing, you know. There were health crises my husband went through. And for a while, they were pretty severe. And, you know, there were times when he wasn't quite joining me in his faith. And I was believing I received his health, his healing. And I was locked into it. And we'd be sitting there in the doctor's office, and the doctor would be standing there pronouncing some dire prognosis over him. You know, we saw this and that, and this is what the test said, and you have this, and it's going to affect you for the rest of your life, and you know, and you go take this drug. And I understand, I honor that doctor's knowledge. In the natural, that man was right. But I was believing for something else in the spirit. My ex-mother-in-law used to call up and ask my husband how his diseases were doing. How's your asthma? How is it? How is your asthma? I saw somebody cutting the grass. I know it must be bothering you today. You know, that grass. I was in this other space, and a lot of times he was with me in this other space, and going, you know, believing that, and it wasn't a matter of believing that he didn't have asthma. It was a matter of believing that he had healthy lungs and healthy bronchial tubes and a healthy bronchial response and a non-allergic bronchial response to everything around him. And so in the midst of that space, what do you do with the doctor? What do you do with the mother-in-law? She wasn't being mean. She was doing what she knew. She was being a caring mother. She was calling up and worrying about him. What do you do with the person who is worrying and worrying about you? You know, I've got kids and they go out driving, you know, so my younger daughter is 25 now, and she goes out. And so when she's let's say she was 20, 21 years old. Well, you know, I make a determined practice of not worrying to the best of my ability and not worrying specifically about my kids. Because I want to be able to know when it's intuition and not be confused by that. And so I practice not worrying, so she's out driving and it's raining, but I don't, you know, I normally pay that no mind. And this one night as I'm getting ready for bed, and she was in the theater department at college, and so she's always out late, midnight, 1, 2 a.m. Theaters, you know, they like in the theater till 11, and then, you know, doing cast parties and stuff. And I get this little something just sort of, when it's my intuition, I don't know how yours affects you, but it sort of comes, it's almost like something whispers in my ear, not badgers me and beats me up and calls me bad names, but whispers gently, a still small voice, not a mean one, or it rises up from my solar plexus and sort of pops into my head. But it's not like I thought it up. It's not like the mental energy that's generated by my conscious cognitive thought. It's spoken to me or dawns on me. And so I'm getting ready for bed, and suddenly this thought rises up, and it just says, Lisa, rain, slow down. And I thought, oh, yeah, it is raining out there. Okay, maybe I'll text her. And I got busy, I forgot. And it came back again. Lisa, rain, slow down. I went, oh, that really is my spirit. Okay, so I texted her. And I went to bed. I released her, I prayed, I visualized. It didn't feel all dark and heavy. It didn't feel like I needed to, you know, visualize all night long. Went to bed. And about 2-3 hours later, somebody's shaking my toe. Mom. What? She's like, you know, thank you for that text. I slowed down. I was coming onto Lincoln Drive, and the car's okay. And the girls that were in the car, 4 giggling girls, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, in the car together, and she's like, they're okay, everybody's okay. That we can't open the passenger door right now, but it's all okay. And I'm like, okay, text your dad. He's the car guy, you know, that's like, in the divorce, he got to take care of the car stuff for the kids. So it's just like, all right. So she slowed down, but there's that, you know, you need to hear your spirit, but on the other hand, you can't walk in fear. And then when you believe for something, you need to let that be firm and settled. I have determined, I have decided. This is what I have. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. This is my call. This is my purpose. Or, you know, I believe I receive this kind of what. See, and that's where the house and car things come in as good stories to tell. So I will tell a car story. So back in the day, when the first daughter was little, and we took her home from the hospital 33 years ago in the recommended car seat for a newborn infant. She was fine. We had a Volkswagen Bug, and it didn't have a working heater, but we bought it for $50. You know, it was 1980. So anyway, so she's in the back in this thing, and then she started to grow, and she had to go to the other car seat. Somehow her legs in the other car seat, it didn't fit. You couldn't seat belt her and the car seat into the back of the Volkswagen because no matter how far forward I pulled my seat, you couldn't pull his seat forward, he was 6'3". No matter how far forward I pulled my seat, it wasn't working. So I would strap her into the car seat, but we were illegally resting the car seat on the back seat without it being strapped down. And we didn't have anything else we could do about it at that time. And so at that point, we're like, you know, I think we need a new car. I think we need something else. And at one time, we were going around a ramp for the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and I heard the baby cry, and I looked in the back seat, and her car seat was upside down. And when I rolled her back, she was like a turtle in its shell. She was like, you know, but she was okay. So anyway, we started to believe we received. And so we just decided we had a van before. This was the era when you bought a van and you customized it yourself. You know, you bought it and you put in a mini bar or something. And so, you know, so we're like, okay, we need something. And we needed to have 3 seats with seat belts. And seat belts were not They weren't standard in old cars. I mean, we're buying used, right? We're buying used on the side of the road, not used on the lot. And, you know, they didn't all come with seatbelts back then. So we actually had to use our, you know, determine, we believe we receive a new car. We want it to be good on gas. It's 1980, and so it's at the end of this gas crisis that happened in the late 70s, right? If that's going on. We want it to be good on gas. We want it to be low mileage. We want it to have, you know, be in good mechanical shape. We don't care what color it is. But we needed to have at least 3 seats with real seat belts so we can belt the baby in and ourselves. And so we start to believe for that. And we had about $1,500 in the bank. So we go out car shopping on the side of the road in the newspaper articles and little one, you know, little, what do they call those? Anyway, we're looking at those little ads. Thank you, the classifieds are looking for those ads. And so we go to see this van. And, you know, for a while we're like, and we're playing with each other in the sense of, with the manifesting. So my husband would say to me, you know, I'm going to go to the van now. I'd be like, okay, I'll be right there. I'll be right, you know, I'll get the baby. I'll be right out. We'd be somewhere. We'd be in church. We'd be in the mall. He'd be like, you know, like, I'm going to go get the van. I'll bring it around to the door for you. And like, so we'd get into the Volkswagen and he'd take his 6'3" shoulders and he would reach and shove me into that far door. And I'd be like, okay, so he'd be like, boy, this van's roomy. And I'd be like, yeah, stop. Okay, stop. Yeah, the van's roomy. So we kept calling the Volkswagen a van. We had this thing now. And we're like, we believe we receive. We have a van and it's good on gas and it's got low mileage and it's in great mechanical shape and it's got 3 seats with real seat belts. And so we go to see this van that's advertised in the classified. And when we get there, and we're youth pastors, when we get there, it does have the mini bar and a Budweiser clock and shag carpet and massive old dirty shag carpet, already dirty. And so we see this van, but it does meet our specifications. It is, you know, low mileage. It is a 6-cylinder instead of an 8-cylinder, and you know, it had 3 seats with seat belts. So we go home. We're talking about it. We call the guy back the next morning. We're like, yes, we'll take the van. He's like, okay, come on down. And this is before cell phones, this is before, you know, this is like just the phone hooked to the wall. And so we leave the house and we leave the phone and we start driving down to this place. And when we get there, the guy meets us at the door and he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I tried to call you back, I tried to stop you, I didn't know it. My wife sold it before you called me. And before you got here, some guy showed up and he gave her the cash and she gave him the title and the keys and it's gone. And this is where most people mess up. This is where you lose it. Because we went back to the car, we still got this baby. I'm thinking I'm going to drive home with this baby properly seatbelted, right? We still got this need. And it hurts. It's a thing that we're struggling about and feeling bad about. And we've got to go home, still in the situation that we came there. So we get back in, and we're dejected. We're downcast. We get back into the Volkswagen, and we sigh, and we look at each other, and we don't feel the least bit like we felt back when we were visualizing, right? We don't have the pretty feeling anymore. And in this space, we looked at each other, and one or the other of us first said, wow, boy, this van is roomy. Yeah, this van's roomy. And so we kept going, and we go down, and a few weeks pass, and we're still in this need. Weeks pass, but we're saying, you know, this van, we're going out to the van now, honey, okay, I'll be right there. Boy, the van's parked outside, yes, the van. And so we drive down to where his parents lived in Margate. We drive down from Philly, where were we living? Ben Salem to Margate. And we go to see his parents, and his dad says, you know, have you been to the junkyard? Like, maybe there's a van at the junkyard. I'm like, really, the junkyard? Like, okay, I've had to get used to cars without heaters from the side of the road, but the junkyard? But his dad won't get off it. So somehow, he and I and his sister end up in the car going to the junkyard. And, you know, thank God there's nothing in the junkyard. We're driving home, we're driving down Zion Road. And as we're driving down Zion Road, his sister points to a car in a driveway with a for sale sign on it. And she's like, what about a van like that? And he's like, oh, he keeps driving. Yeah, that one's pretty. It's factory customized, right? You can tell it's what it's not. And he's like, it's too much. She's like, turn around, turn around, turn around. So he turns around. Women yell at him. He did stuff. I don't know. So he turns around and he goes back. And we're walking around this van drooling. We're looking in the windows. You know, it has padded walls, like quilted, upholstered walls. It had 4 captain's chairs that swivel and recline. It had a refrigerator and a sink and a countertop behind the driver's seat. It has this open space, and then it's got the table that drops down into a bed and the little airplane lights that train down on the table. You know, it's an RV in minivan size, or van size. It wasn't a minivan, it's a van. But it had 20,000 miles on it, and it was a 6-cylinder. And it was factory customized, and it was really, I forget exactly how old, but it was not very old. And so he's like, it's not in our price range, you know. And so his sister insists on talking to the people. The people say they want $6,300 for it. We've got $1,500. Say thank you very much. We go back to his parents' house. Now you have to or her condo. You have to understand who his parents were. They had a big party for him when he turned 13, and they stole his birthday money. Actually, it wasn't birthday money. They stole his money. They didn't let him have it. They didn't ever really give him anything. At 12, his dad helped him get a job and made him pay rent from 12 years old on. And so, really, and when we got married, we went away on our honeymoon. They sold their house while we were away on our honeymoon, and he had purchased an air conditioner with the money he was making, you know, working since he was 12. He was 19 at this point, and working at a gas station as an auto mechanic. And so he had purchased an air conditioner for his bedroom window, and he was going to bring it to our place, and it was going to be there. His mom sold it with the house while we were away on our honeymoon, and told him when we got back, you can't have your air conditioner. I put it in the conditions of the sale. And so I went through my first pregnancy with no air conditioning on the 4th floor under a tar paper roof in Philadelphia, because she sold the air conditioner. So, you know, it was like that, right? All of a sudden, his dad stands up and says, come on, man. And he takes him out the door. And I'm like, okay. They went away, they'd gone a while, they came back with the van. His father went to the bank, took out $6,300, bought the van cash from the people, come back. The next day, because we're staying overnight, the next day he takes him to the bank, gets him a loan for $4,000 to help him build his credit, forgives him the other $2,300, and then we go home with the van, a $4,000 car note that's, you know, got a good rate, like something we can easily handle, and our $1,500 is still in the bank. So, you know, you have to live in the land of let's pretend. You have to have it now. That's what all those principles say. That, you know, all those, the ask, believe, receive, the quotations of, you know, of Jesus in the text are, you know, if you speak to the mountain and do not doubt in your heart, but believe that what you say will come to pass, it will be done for you. You know, you talk to the mountain, you command it to move into the sea. You do this thing. Everything about it is, if you ask, if you believe that you receive, then you'll have it. There's all this stuff about talking and about believing it in the present tense. So what you actually do, it's cash and carry. I'm going to read another little story. When I go into meditation and visualization, any sort of prayer practice I've ever had in regard to this, I have the good feeling there. I can generate the good feeling there. It's hard to generate the good feeling when the baby's rolling upside down in her car seat. It's hard to generate the good feeling when the doctor's saying bad things to you. It's hard to generate the good feeling when you don't know what you're feeding your kid. But you can still lock in to your determination and lock the words of your mouth, and you can say what you believe you receive despite what you're seeing. So, okay. Perhaps the most important thing I can say to you about my experience with the power of words is to demonstrate to you how they can anchor your heart in the midst of a crisis. I was 8 months into my 3rd pregnancy, so the girl who's now 25. Because of complications with my first pregnancy, at the end of the 3rd trimester, my obstetrician had me going for a routine fetal stress test. One particular afternoon, and so they would, turn on the hormones and make your uterus start contracting and watch what was happening with the baby and determine if the baby was okay or if they should intervene with a C-section. So one particular afternoon at the end of this, a staff person came in and said, "There appears to be something wrong with your baby's heart. We want you to go home, spend the weekend lying on your left side to keep the blood flow to the uterine artery unimpeded, and come back Monday morning for another test. We'll decide where to go from there." Again, that cold bucket of fear all over me. The thing about a pregnancy is you can't see your baby. Once a baby's born, you can at least look at it to see if it looks all right. I understand that this is not always a help, but I had the overwhelming desire to see the baby, to see if she looked all right, but there was no way to do that. I don't know how I even saw the road as I drove home from that test. I know I did it through a veil of tears. I remember using my affirmation sheets, lying on my side on the couch and struggling between sobs to read them out loud. I remember someone called that night, but I have no idea who it was, though I do remember resisting the urge to share with them the fear the stress test messenger had delivered. I know I spent the weekend, just as I was told, lying on my left side, and I know I spent the weekend wrestling to anchor my racing thoughts and raging emotions in my faith in the power of faith-filled words. The thing about a crisis of that magnitude is that I could no more visualize a healthy baby or generate good feelings at that moment in time than I could leap the moon. Rather, my mind was flooded with the image of an improperly formed fetal heart. Every part of my mind, emotions, will, and body was at war. I was beyond devastated. I was decimated, eviscerated, emotionally splayed out on the ground. But I could force myself to speak. And I could force myself to speak that which I wanted more than air, a healthy baby, even if I could not by any means muster a pretty visualization or a single good feeling. And so I spoke and spoke and spoke. I'm pretty sure I did not sleep much that weekend, I did not spend much time that weekend lost in the mercy of sleep. I spent most of those approximate 65 hours reading those words out loud over and over and over again as I lay on my side. Monday morning, bright and early, found me heart and throat, affirmation sheets in hand, hooked up for another fetal stress test. Alone in the room, I continued to read through the sheets, turning the pages, whispering the positive affirmations over and over again, struggling to picture them as true. The staff person returned. She looked perplexed. She fiddled with that, then fiddled with this. She went out, came back in, fiddled, left, and returned, ready to announce, "You can go home, your baby's fine. That other machine must have been broken." At this writing, that baby is 24 years old, has just finished her bachelor's degree, and is a continual blessing to me. Her birth was blessedly uneventful, and her heart has been good every day of her life. It's important that we fully recognize, in light of the law of attraction or manifesting, the true significance of the creative power of words, because your positive affirmations are, in a sense, cash and carry. When I am deep in the subconscious meditative experience of spirit, I can visualize. I can generate the feeling of having. I can generate the feeling of gratitude for my blessings, manifest and soon to be manifest. But sometimes, when I'm carrying on my day-to-day life and functioning out of my conscious mind, if a messenger comes bearing a negative report, I may face her in the natural with my Western rational mind on top, the part that recognizes the likelihood that what she is saying is true and will or could come to pass as my reality. But if I'm grounded in the power of words and practiced in making positive affirmations, I can make my affirmations of faith even when, because of my daily duties, I don't immediately press into spirit. I can withstand the emotions of hearing that negative report by responding to it with my faith-filled words. So that's what we do between when we believe we receive and when the thing we're believing for manifests, is we have to first decide clearly what we want. Then we have to draw the line in the sand and say, this is mine. I have it now, and I refuse anything else. I will not accept any other outcome. And I think we should do what's rational. I think we should get kids with fevers Tylenol. I think we should go to the doctor and get them an antibiotic if they have an ear infection. I think that we should eat healthy and natural and do the best stuff we can for our physical body as far as nourishing our flesh and keeping it away from poisons. I think we should do what we can do. I think we should take advantage of medical science if they can offer us something in the moment of crisis. If my husband was having an asthma attack, I didn't say, just lay there and struggle to breathe. We went and he did the breathing treatment. I mean, you respond, you do what makes sense in a rational sense. But in the midst of that, if you've already believed that you receive, even though this thing you don't receive is happening, and you have to deal with it, and you do what's rational to deal with it. You know, you don't write faith checks, as we used to call them. You don't write bad checks hoping the money's going to be there before the person gets it to the bank. And you don't walk in foolishness and presumption. You do what's reasonable and rational. But if you have believed you've received and it's yours and you have it now and you are locked and you are determined and you know what it is you've got, then you keep on saying it. When the doctor would stand there and give a negative report about my husband, when he would turn I was respectful to his face, but when the doctor would turn his back, under my breath, I'd be like, I believe I receive you healed. I believe I receive he is whole and well. Every cell in his body, every organ in his body functions in perfect health from the top of his head to the soles of his feet. He walks in perfect health. He does this, he does that, he does that. You know what? And even though I divorced him, the man's still walking in the health that I confessed, or that he confessed over himself all those years ago. And we were actually having those crises in the mid-'80s. But you know, so it's been a long time, and the man hasn't had, you know, those crises for 2 decades, a decade and a half, whatever that is. So when you are determined, you are reaching into the quantum field. And Deepak Chopra talks about just this energy mass that's waiting for commands. They're saying that, you know, everything that we look at, see, and touch, it's not really solid. There's more space between molecules than there are molecules, and they're all waiting to be told how to manifest. And there's this whole big collective picture, you know, whatever there is on the other side, whatever there is in other dimensions, whatever else is out there helping manifest this physical reality, and whatever there is of collective human consciousness and will that's manifesting this big picture and the big mosaic of our lives, the little piece of it that's yours. The little piece of it that's your task in the earth, the little piece of it that's what you need or your kids need, you've got a right for that. It actually doesn't help the starving children in China for you to eat your dinner, not to eat your dinner or not to have a dinner. You know, we need to be aware and sensitive. I teach, you know, globalization and gender, and we talk about all of the horrible things in many third world spaces, and some of the things that are going on here that are threatening our space here. But, you know, in the midst of all of that, your little piece of the painting, when other things bleed into it, get your paint thinner and, you know, clean off your canvas and go back to painting your life, your intention, your will, the reason you came here, whether we choose our lives and we come here on purpose, picking a set of circumstances to deal with, or whether, you know, we're sent here by some all-knowing force. However it is that we get here, you have a responsibility. You have, at the very, even in the most monotheistic, one life, you know, worldview, theological perspective, we'd be made in the image of the Creator. We'd be made in the image of that source, right? And that source, whatever it is obviously creative. And so we are, each of us, creative. And this life that we're walking through, if we will decide something, we can have that thing that we decide. And if we refuse to be moved, if I see this beautiful stone house, and I'm like, I believe I received that stone house. Well, you might live in it. You have a right to your stone house. You have some authority over your stone house. But if I can take a picture of your house, doesn't mean I'm going to get your house. But if I will hold that in front of my face, if I will visualize that, and if I will keep my affirmations locked into that, if I will believe that I receive a 3-story stone house with all those beautiful nooks and crannies and turrets and stuff, I will manifest a house just like that for me. You may choose to move and sell it to me, or there may be one around over there that just fits the bill just nicely, you know, but it will be mine. I will end up with a house like that. Some things take longer, some things take shorter, but if you determine what it is you desire and settle your heart that you have a right to be the one who determines that the universe is actually waiting for your order, actually waiting for your command, actually waiting for you to decide what it is you have and how it is that the people you love and yourself, how you're doing in this world. If you'll determine that and make some decisions in concert with your own spirit, in concert with your communion with Source and with any guides or any beings that you're aware of that come to you in spirit, if you work with spirit and then make determinations and lock into it, you will manifest what you determine every single time. This has worked for me every single time I've worked it. And there have been times I have not. When I was doing my dissertation defense, I was so frustrated with the process and with one of the academics I was working with that I took great delight in complaining about her and the process. And anybody who said, how is it going? I said, oh my God, it's terrible. And every time I did that, she got more obnoxious, it slowed down more, she didn't like this, she didn't like, go do it again. And then I'd go, all right, stop it, Nadine. And I'd lock into doing it right, and all of a sudden she'd be like, okay, I'll take this, yeah, you can move to the next step. But I know I at least doubled the time that it took to do that because I enjoyed complaining about what I was going through in regard to her. We're human, but when you work it, it will always work for you if you will determine what you've got, if you will make it present tense, and if you will speak in line with what you believe. I didn't tell my husband's mother he doesn't have asthma. I didn't tell that to the doctor or any of the other dire diseases. I don't tell someone who doesn't understand, because they're just gonna wrestle with my faith. But there are people you can tell. There are people you can go up and you can say, in the spirit, do you see what I have here? Isn't this wonderful? And they will rejoice with you. The people in this room would be people who would understand what you were doing. You could talk about it to them. You could talk in the present tense of having, and they would go, yes, and I agree with you, and that's wonderful. I'm so glad Donald Trump has rehired you with absolute full seniority. Of course, you're still, yes, always. So as I close tonight, just take a moment and think again what you saw as you went down the stairs, and just commit to yourself to take enough time, 10 minutes daily, 3 times a week, 10 minutes, sometimes in the bathroom if that's the only time your family will leave you alone, but to take 10 minutes to every day or as often as possible to go in and to commune with your spirit, to fine-tune your vision, and then to speak, to make an affirmation sheet, to use it, and to make it present tense, to be talking about what you have, who you are, what you're accomplishing, and expand it. Do a little bit for the earth, do a little bit for the environment, do a little bit for the nation and the nations, do a little for other people. Take something and add it to your affirmative hold that's for something bigger than yourself. And keep that there too as you walk this out in the earth. So Amy, may I give the mic back to you? Thank you very much for your attention.
Very wonderful summary, and I hope you all take something with you tonight and try to apply some of her words.